Aloha, everyone. We're talking about joy here. What joy it is to be standing here at the podium, exactly where I was yesterday at Sof Marov during services. The joy I feel today is equally powerful because I've been in consult with Marie Ann, who actually we both taught at Kailua Elementary School at the same time. I've gotten to know Bill and Dennis, who allowed me to use his piano when I was teaching trope for Torah. Blake, your tech person, and of course, Leslie with the beautiful music she's singing. And of course, that one was from Fiddler on the Roof. Well, I'd like to say, as president of Congregation Sof Marav, I am very proud to stand before you today. This is the 50th year of Congregation Sof Marav being here on Shabbat every Saturday and sharing this space with our brothers and sisters at the Unitarian Church. So there's a lot of goodness and hope, and we're so happy that we're among you here. So it works out so perfectly. We have Saturdays and you have Sundays, and that's how it's been for a very, very long time. I also thank you for the privilege and the honor to address you today, and thank Reverend TJ for all of his encouragement along the way. As many of you know, our congregation is a Jewish gathering. We pray, read out of the Torah during our services. We take time speaking and talking about the current Parsha of the week. We are lay-led, egalitarian, and we do not have a professional staff. We are all volunteers. Sof Marav gathers at a minimal amount of attendance right now due to the COVID restrictions. We are all vaccinated, and we remain distant, and we wear masks. So we're doing it as safely as we possibly can. And yet we're at a minimal amount of people, but it is joyous when we're in here. Well, I wanted to tell you a little bit about what it was like for me during the holiday season. When I was little, I lied in bed on Christmas Eve, and I imagined Santa flying over our house with his reindeer. Santa knew that we were Jewish, so he wasn't stopping at our house, but he would be going to my best friend's house, Debbie, who lived around the corner. And the next day we were able to play with all her goodies. Debbie's mother was nice to me, but when I brought home another of my friends, Alida, who I really love, her mom said to Debbie that she couldn't play with me too because Alida was Black. That hurt. And I knew at the time, at 10 years old, that that was really, really wrong. The place that we call home has so much ruach. That's Hebrew for spirit. We feel it today when Dennis and Leslie were practicing. I was dancing in this room just like I dance on Saturdays. And you can feel the spirit here among you, with you. So what do we talk about joy for the Festival of Lights, Hanukkah? We talk about the first candle. When the Jews took back their temple, they dedicated it. And the word Hanukkah means dedication. Hanukkah is about the freedom to be true to what we believe without denying the freedom of those who believe otherwise. It's about lighting our candle while not being threatened by or threatening anybody else's candle. That comment was made by Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks. He was chief in the British Empire for the rabbinate, and he has passed away. But he had so many wonderful comments, and we all really love what he has to say to us. He also said the symbol of Hanukkah is the menorah we light for 8 days in memory of the temple purified and rededicated by the Maccabees all those centuries ago. Faith is like a flame. Properly tended, it gives light and warmth. When we are free, each of us are free to light our own flame. Together we can banish some of the darkness of the world. This relates to your chalice. The chalice is very much like our Hanukkah candles. It's a symbol of hope, sacred, quest for truth, warmth of community, the light of reason, and more. Something in the human spirit survives even the worst of tragedies, allowing us to rebuild shattered lives, broken institutions, and injured nations. That to me is the Jewish story. Jews survive all the defeats, expulsions, persecutions, pogroms, even the Holocaust itself, because they never gave up the faith that one day they would be free to live as Jews without fear. This is the ever-renewed power of the faith, whose symbol is Hanukkah, and its light of hope. Speaking of hope, I recently watched Defying the Nazis, The Sharps War. If you haven't seen this film yet, I highly recommended it. This film was recommended to me by Reverend TJ. Wade Still and Martha Sharp, an American Unitarian minister, and his wife went to Czechoslovakia to rescue thousands of Jews that were being invaded and executed by the Nazis. They both risked their lives to save men, women, and children. Wade Still said, and he quotes, "Beyond the pale of civilization," that's what they were facing. They became spies to save others. They returned to America, and then their ministry, which was involved of them doing this project of love, they were called back to France again, leaving their children to save other children. They saved thousands, bringing light into the very darkest corners of human extermination. How important are conversations among us today? The Talmud, Brachot 26b, uses the phrase Ein Sicha Ela Tefillah, which literally means conversation is a form of prayer, because it is an opening of ourselves to the human other. We prepare ourselves for the act of opening ourselves up with the divine other, which is what prayer is, a conversation with the Almighty. Conversation does not in itself resolve conflict. Two people who are open with one another may still have clashing desires or competing claims. But conversation means that we recognize one another's humanity. At its best, it allows us to engage in a role reversal, seeing the world from the other person's point of view. And the power of speech, how does that affect us? The sages were eloquent in speaking about the dangers of what we call in Hebrew, Lashon Hara, evil speech, the power of language to fracture relationships and destroy trust and goodwill. Words create, words reveal, words command, words redeem. Judaism is a religion of holy words. For words are the narrow bridge across the abyss between soul and soul, between two human beings, and between humanity and the divine. Language is redemption of solitude and the mender of broken relationships. However painful it is to speak about the hurt, it is more painful to let it go and let it fester inside your heart. I dedicate this talk not only to a song we'll be singing later, Shechechianu, for thanking the Almighty for life, but also I want to dedicate this to a very dear friend of mine, Mrs. Louise Hamilton. Mrs. Louise Hamilton is no longer with us, but knowing she's up in heaven always makes me feel a lot better. I wrote this about Mrs. Hamilton in a newspaper article, but I wanted to tell you that we were of different religions. She was in the Baptist church. I was in the synagogue about a mile from each other. My skin is white, her skin is black, and there was 30 years between us. But yet, she was the one I would go to spiritually. She was my mentor. And I have not even mentioned all the times that Mrs. Hamilton has collected bread and taken it to the needy, or how she spends her holiday giving out food to the homeless in train stations. But what struck me in particular, one day, she wasn't feeling well at all, but I found her carrying the candlesticks from her church to her home. She told me they needed polishing. You see, after all her good deeds, nothing was beneath her. When it needed to get done, I learned so much from her that one instance. The humility in the very act of giving itself, no one need even to recognize it, and yet she would go on forever in exactly the same way, and she did. I would like to thank you all again for inviting me. I also wish you well in the celebration of eternal lights for this holiday season. Chag Sameach, that's what we say for Hanukkah.